Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Jay's PC Impossible. Now for today we're going to be doing something just a little different. For one, you get to see my face for the first time since I started this channel. Secondly, I have this guy in my hand. This is an EVGA GTX 660. Yes, I know, it's a fairly old card. But let's talk about it for a second. This card is currently owned by my college professor who plans on using it maybe for software programming, coding, web development. Unfortunately, he doesn't know if the card is still working in tip-top shape, considering since there's a lot of stories going around that the previous owner was a heavy smoker, which probably explains the amount of smoke residue, like cigarette residue, that you can find inside this fan. I mean, it is thick. Like the inside of the actual tower that this thing was in was just, you can catch secondhand smoke from that thing. That's how bad it is. But anyways, we're hoping that probably, most likely, if I can, I'm gonna try my hardest to see if I can get some new life into this bad boy. I'm gonna be taking it apart down to its screws, so to speak. Remove all the old thermal paste, apply new thermal paste, put everything back together, and hopefully see if this bad boy still has some of that EVGA NVIDIA might that it used to have back in the day. For those of you that are curious, tech spec wise on this bad boy, not that I'm sure anybody would call it a bad boy, it has 960 CUDA cores, base clock of 1042, a boost clock of 1111 if I'm not mistaken, 6000 megahertz on the memory clock, 2 gigabytes of VRAM. Sorry, I almost forgot my words there. 2 gigabytes of video memory, 192-bit memory interface. Back in the day, this was considered one of the top-of-the-line cards. Yes, I know a lot of you are going to say, oh, you know, what about some of the cards that came afterwards? Well, we're trying to keep it real, okay, people? We're trying to keep it real. So, yeah, hopefully we can bring some new life to this card and see what it can do compared to some of the games and applications that we have going on these days. So let's get to it. That damn thermal paste. Can you believe it? The thing just splattered all over the GPU die. Anyway, I'm all done. And as you can see here, it's currently running on my test bench. It's nice and illuminated. It's pretty hot. Anyway, for those of you that are wondering, the test bench is running on an AMD quad core. It's the Athlon X4 750K if I'm not mistaken. I currently have it underclocked at about 3.2 gigahertz, simply because, well, it's AMD. The thing runs like on fire 24/7. So yeah, 8 gigs of memory, 1600 megahertz, solid state drive, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm about to try out some of 2 days games on this older hardware and see how well the GPU does on some of the today's titles. 2 in particular, Ashes of Singularity, DirectX 11, because DirectX 12, despite being supported, on the card, horrible, it just crashes. So DirectX 11, Shadows of Singularity, and probably do a little bit of No Man's Sky, just a little walk around or whatnot, just so you can get an idea of just how stable or unstable the card is. So let us jump into some Ashes of Singularity. I have the camera on auto, so if the room seems to get dark, it's because of that. Go in here and run the test bench, or the benchmark, sorry. Now, I don't know how well the microphone picks this up, but the card itself is huffing and puffing. It is literally screaming at me. Now, I did set a custom fan profile just so that I don't nerf this poor thing. But Shadows of the Singularity, it looks like it's running okay. I don't know if it captures well on the camera itself, but it looks like it's running okay. But in reality, we are averaging at about 20, or I'm sorry, yeah, about 20 frames per second, I think, is the highest I've seen. It's actually holding around 15 to 14 frames per second right now, which, I mean, let's face it, it's on ultra settings. I'm running MSA ×4. All the settings are on high. Literally the preset is set to crazy, and it's doing 14 frames per second on a crazy preset DirectX 11, a new title. So I guess you can give it credit where credit is due, but that's that. Now, just in case any of you are wondering, the current temperature, I do have an OSD running on the top left corner of the screen. You can't see it too well on camera, but the current temperature is 165 degrees Fahrenheit. The GPU is running at 100% of its load. The fan is running at 74% of its total output, and the GPU clock is currently boosted up to 1163, which is the fastest I've seen so far. Keep in mind it's normal. The normal boost clock is rated at 1111, with the base being at 1042. So it's actually boosting pretty well, considering again how old the card is. Alright, we're coming up to the end of the benchmark here. Alright, so we got an average. The average frame rate for all batches is 14.9 frames per second. The normal batches is 15.9, the medium is 15.8, and the heavy batches are 13.3. So that gives you somewhat of an idea of just how this card is running on today's titles. Again, keep this in mind. This is DirectX 11, 1080p, full screen. Point light quality is set to high. Glare quality is set to high. The shading samples is 16 million samples. Terrain shading samples is 16 million as well. Shadow quality is high. Temporal A duration is 0. Temporal A time slice is 0. And multi-sampling anti-aliasing is set to 4 times. So it is literally on the crazy setting, and for it to do, I mean, at least in my opinion, I don't know about you guys, but for it to be able to do 14.9 average on a crazy setting, I mean, most of you will probably get away with 30, 40, maybe even 50 frames per second if you set it to medium. So there you have it for that test. So let's go try out some No Man's Sky. Here. Now, just for giggles, I had decided to load a custom, I guess you can say custom graphic settings to No Man's Sky just to give it more oomph, if you can say that, I guess. I am running a dual GPU system in my computer, so I'd like to push it as far to the limit as possible. So I applied that custom setting to the test bench itself, so it's running on that custom setting right now. So you're going to get to see No Man's Sky on this old GPU running on custom ultra settings. Alright, so keep that in mind. For those of you that are curious, yes, it did take this long to load the first time. I did create a save point just to make sure that we didn't just start at the very beginning of the game, although we're still at the beginning. But I guess just the age of the GPU is making it run, like making it load this slowly. So just a quick note before, well, not before, because I have no idea when this thing's gonna load finally, but the GPU clock right now actually spiked up to 1180, 1183 to be precise. Now, the game itself is actually, I'm not gonna lie, it's laggy. It's crazy laggy. The mouse response time is stupid fast, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that the game itself is very much laggy on this GPU. Now, remember, I said on the GPU. I'm not saying that the game itself is laggy. The game is actually really well optimized. The guys at Hello Games did an awesome job creating this title. But it's just the GPU itself. It's maxing out its memory quite quickly, actually. It's sitting literally at around 2,000 megabytes. So it's pretty much maxed out for the most part. The game on this card is running pretty well. I'm getting about 34 frames per second. That's playable, but if you're looking for that awesome 60 frames per second out of this game, you're not going to get it unless you drop the settings to its absolute lowest. Keep in mind, I am using custom settings. See what we got here. Oh, sorry, graphics. Full screen, primary monitor, 1080p. VSync is turned off. SSAA times 4. The on foot field of view is 72. The flight field of view is 90. Gamma's 128. Anisotropic, I can never say that word right. Anisotropic filtering is set to 16. Texture detail is high. Shadow detail is ultra. Generation detail is high. Reflection quality is high. Obviously the HUD is on. And max frames is actually set to 60, even though VSync is turned off. Just because I know this game is not going to be able to push it that far. In the actual settings file that's in the root folder itself, I have G-Sync turned off, V-Sync is turned off, and I added a command line in there that just, if I'm not mistaken, actually pushes the texture detail up a little bit higher, so it doesn't show on here. I guess they don't have a null or whatever like it shows up in some games, but it does have much higher textures than the original game is supposed to put out, I guess. But for the most part, I mean, the game is running pretty smooth, except for the fact that you do get every once in a while some stutter, like you see there. This game is actually very different when you're using keyboard and mouse. So yeah, that's that for this GPU. All in all, I'm gonna say the GPU does perform quite well. Keep in mind, these are newer titles. Ashes of Singularity is, if I'm not mistaken, barely a year old. Maybe it's about a year old. No Man's Sky, which recently got released about a week ago. So I mean, these are pretty much some of today's titles, some of today's heavy hitters, especially No Man's Sky, which recently came out. So in my opinion, the GPU does handle quite well, especially for what the professor plans on using it for, which is for software development, web design, and things like that. The GPU will do just fine. It'll handle all of his tasks, just, you know, at optimal performance. It's exactly what he's looking for. Obviously, you don't need, you know, a 970 or a 1080 or a NVIDIA Titan or its younger brother, the GeForce Titan X, whatever. Anyway, but yes, in my opinion, the GPU runs fine, despite the fact that it's screaming at me right now. This thing is just, it's loud right now. But yeah, let me know what you think of the video. Let me know in the comments what you think of the format of the video. If you guys actually like me, you know, double clicking on the executable, letting it load, you guys actually see it load instead of seeing, you know, me skip ahead and things like that. What else? Let me know what you think of the video itself. Let me know what I can do different in my videos. Your advice is always welcome, good or bad criticism. It'll help me. So yeah, definitely, if you can leave a comment, please do. Check me out on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. I post a lot of crazy things on there. Most of the times it's PC related, sometimes it's car related, and the rest of it is just random stuff. Subscribe to my channel if you want to keep it up to date. It's subscribe if you want to remain up to date on new content. I'm pretty sure I said it right that time. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and share the link, share the video. Sharing is caring. Do it. I'm serious. Anyway, like, dislike, whatever tickles your pickle. I will check you guys out in the next one. See you later.